when the church was still in Judea, before it had even been spread to Samaria. And you kind of see the church going through some growing pains here. They're growing quickly in their numbers. And it doesn't take long before there is some conflict. We're human beings. You know, we're emotional people. You know, we're humans. What more can you say? There's going to be conflict. And it's a good example for us today of how to handle, you know, I guess, conflicts in the church. This is the first example of one. I don't remember reading of any conflict, internal conflict within the body of Christ before this. If you see something, let me know. But this is, you know, meal service for the Greek-speaking widows, the Hellenistic Jews who were in Jerusalem. And so, like I say, this is, you know, a good example of how to deal with problems that will arise. And there are solutions if we look for them. Prayerfully look. So let's read this. If I have a reader, let's just read Acts chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. Someone willing to read? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, thank you for that, and you did good reading all those names. So who were the Hellenists? Does anyone who were these people? They said a complaint came against the Hebrews by the Hellenists. Does anyone know who the Hellenists were? Okay, excellent. Yes. And I'm presuming that they were converted and stayed, right? And Hellenist literally means Greek speaking. You know, these were individuals who maybe had lived in Greek speaking regions of the world, maybe like Antioch or even Rome. You know, we read a long list of people in Acts chapter 2 who were there on the day of Pentecost. Many stayed. And these are people who were, by ethnicity, are Jews. And I'm assuming that they maybe were faithful in that, on when they had followed the law of Moses and they came to worship. Maybe were there for the Feast of Weeks or whatever. But they had lived some period of their life in a Greek-speaking society or region. And Greek was their primary tongue. Versus the Hebrews, where Aramaic would have been their primary tongue there in Jerusalem. And, these people may have been part of those people who were dispersed, were in the Assyrian or Babylonian captivity. People there and never came back to Jerusalem, but they may have kept, their Jewish faith and lived there. Many did, we know. And so, but these are people who were staying in Jerusalem, living there now. These are widows, which and they speak a different language. They speak Greek, and probably had picked up some of the traditions and cultures, of the Greeks or wherever they were at. So there's a little bit, you can almost say they were ethnic Jews, but maybe a little bit different culturally. Certainly their language. And so there was a little diversity there. And so you can see how a conflict might arise, some misunderstandings. I don't know if this was intentional or not. Probably, I would hope it wasn't. Probably they just kind of overlooked this class of people. Maybe communication was a barrier. We don't know. But anyways, we're told that there arose a complaint because the Greek-speaking widows felt like they were left out of the daily distribution of food that was given out. Now, widows in this time and age, they were particularly vulnerable compared to maybe widows today. I mean, we have Social Security, we have Medicare, we have health care. I mean, we have a lot of things for everyone in this country. It's difficult to fall, between the cracks here. Back then, I mean, widows at that time, did they have anyone? A true widow or a widow indeed, did they have anyone to take care of them? No, they didn't. No, they were a very helpless group of people that they had no family, no one to look after them, and they needed help. They were widows indeed. And so there rose a complaint, they're being neglected. And so the apostles, of course, were wise. I'm sure they prayerfully decided on a solution to do here, what solution to have here. But it's important to note what they didn't do, I think. I don't read of them shunning these people. I don't read of them deciding, well, if you're not getting along, maybe it's best if you all just kind of do your own thing if you leave. Don't be part of the church in Jerusalem. They didn't cast them away. I don't see that they shunned them. I don't see that this group of Hellenists decided, well, we'll just start our own congregation. There's a lot of things that could have happened there. I don't see that. I see, godly men. I mean, they had the apostles. It's amazing, too, to me that, this is a church in Jerusalem that had the 12 apostles, present there. And they still had this conflict. They still had a problem arise like this. Nobody's going to be immune to things like this happening. Conflicts will come up. But this is an example of dealing with in a godly way. And I'm sure that they prayerfully determined this. So what was the solution that they had? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have what? Oh, okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for adding that. Thank you. So I read that they It says the 12 summoned the multitude of the disciples. That looked like they took it among the brethren, the body. They brought it before the congregation as a whole. Put it in their hands to pick 7 qualified men, 7 qualified men of good reputation, full of the Spirit and wisdom, that they can appoint over this business. It was a pretty wise thing to do. They put it in the hands. The other thing that they didn't do, the apostles didn't say, "Well, we'll do this. We'll take care of it. We'll go take care of it. Make sure that this is done right. If you want something done right, do it yourself." They didn't do that either, and that's important too, because what would have happened if they had done that? I mean, we read that here. They said, the apostles said, "But we will give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the word." So again, this is another example of, you need to, people who are our pastors, our shepherds, our deacons, people who are in leadership roles, they need to be willing to allocate out or hand out, roll tasks and jobs to all of us. I don't want to take away our evangelists from teaching to do things that there are other members who can do, that we have gifts to do. Yeah.
Moses had that problem. He was trying to do everything himself.
Exactly.
His father-in-law says, "Moses,
Yeah.
you can't do all this. You've got to delegate."
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have shepherds.
Yeah.
Need to delegate to the deacons, delegate to all of us, men, women, teenagers, because of the different talents that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we function a whole lot better
Yeah.
when we operate on that basis.
Yeah. Yeah. And we looked at that passage too. Remember the 70 elders chosen to serve, to help lead the people. I mean, like I said, he couldn't lead those people by himself. He had to divide the labor. And again, this is another example of that. There's godly wisdom here on how to handle with these things. And say we need everyone working to their fullest in whatever areas they're gifted in. If they're teaching, they need to be dedicated primarily to that. I'm saying primarily. To do other things is fine, but primarily, we don't want to take away their focus. And if we had pulled the apostles and if they were busy, serving, bread to these widows, the gospel wouldn't have grown. They wouldn't have probably even left Judea for a long time if they had been busy doing that. And so, division of labor, another good thing to see here. And it said this saying pleased the whole congregation. And then they chose Stephen and Philip and all these others. And we did a sermon. Was it Todd who did a sermon on this a few weeks ago? I can't remember which one did the sermon on this, but they brought to the attention what was unique about all of these names, the common thread in all of these names. They're all Greek, yeah. So how do you suppose that played a factor in dealing with handling the situation effectively? If they chose, 7 men who were full of the Spirit and wisdom, of good reputation, faithful men, who were also of that class, they were probably Hellenistic, Greek-speaking men. How do you think that helped resolve this problem? I mean, I'm thinking. Mm-hmm.
But the ones that weren't, speaking congregants would know which of the Greek-speaking widows were not getting help.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think it probably helped communication, to communicate more effectively with these people, with these widows. I think it probably built trust. It showed inclusion, representation. In the church. I mean, these men were put in this position. Showed some sensitivity there too. I guess you could call it cultural sensitivity there, but there was some wisdom here. Wisdom on behalf of the body choosing these men, and then the apostles for having this plan. And the results here, what were the results? in verse 7. Yeah, the gospel was spread. We assume their needs were met. The gospel spread. It said, and the number of disciples multiplied in Jerusalem, and it said even many of the priests became obedient to the faith. That's something else. Of the priests becoming obedient to it. It's amazing here too. We look at a couple of these names. Stephen and Philip. They were kind of chosen here to. This is kind of, I would say, kind of a leadership type role, and to handle this ministry. This was a ministry to take care of the Greek-speaking widows. And I'm just curious, how they evolved in that amount of time. We read Stephen, his role here. Of course, what happened to him speaking in front of the Sanhedrin. But Philip, he's the one who, he took the gospel into Samaria. He's the one who kind of broke that little, not the full measure of taking it to the Gentiles, but kind of that half measure of extending it into Samaria. We read about him in chapter 8. Remember, he's the one who, preached in all the parts of Samaria and baptized even Simon the sorcerer, and, the case with the Ethiopian eunuch. So you kind of wonder what kind of spiritual growth he went through that started here with this, being appointed, chosen, working his gift. It didn't say anything about him being a teacher, but then we see that he was a powerful preacher of the gospel. And so we kind of see, you just getting to work, starting, working, using your gift, using your gifts, and evolving into other things, teaching or preaching, whatever it is. But it's amazing God's placement and how God can line all these things up when you look from one chapter to another. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Yeah. Thank you.